Jake, as you said earlier, we're back.
Back at it again, Psalm 39, and it's not too bright for you because you got the look. Are those Ray-Bans this morning, or what are you rocking?
These are some Ray-Bans.
Nice.
This is the first expensive pair of sunglasses I've ever owned. But I was telling you, I got them when I still worked at Nike, so I didn't pay for them.
Yeah,
I would never spend more than $10 on sunglasses.
that's where I'm at, man. I'm in like the $10 to $30 range for
Yeah.
my shades, but
Well, dude, Psalm 39, I was reading a little bit of a commentary on this one just because I was kind of curious. And I thought it was helpful. Like, so they think that as we get, we're about to wrap up book one of the Psalms. That's on Psalm 41. But I think I read something like 38, 39, 40, and 41 are kind of like all stitched together. And it's kind of like, this is another really cool one where it's another great like example psalm of how we can sort of live things out. Like I like how David's actually almost kind of he's kind of like upset. He has to like bite his tongue, you know. It says he's like holding back. And then I have a question for you on this one actually.
cool.
So this is interesting because, and I don't think people talk about this that much, but David's sort of in this psalm wrestling with like the Lord's discipline for him in his sin.
Yeah.
How have you experienced the Lord's discipline in your own sin?
Yeah, that's a great question, man, because the New Testament teaches that it's not just an Old Testament thing, right?
Totally.
And so the New Testament also talks about this idea, I believe in Hebrews chapter 12, I could be wrong on that. We didn't plan this, or at least I didn't plan this,
I
but
know this is so good. I know. Sorry, I thought it was good.
the idea that who the Lord loves, he also chastens. He also
Yeah.
deals with their sin and helps in a corrective way. And I think that in love, the Lord keeps me on a really short leash, honestly. And what I mean by that is um, there's always just a very strong, and this is a personal thing for sure,
Sure.
but there's a strong conviction in me to make sure that I keep everything in the light. And what I mean by that is um, the Lord will just bring conviction into my heart and into my mind. And if there's something that I know that needs to stop, or that I whatever it is, I fell short. My wife, Haley, is somebody for me in my life. And before Haley, I pretty much go to my dad
Mm-hmm.
because I knew that I could trust him. I know that I can trust her. I don't think it's wise to like just tell everybody all of your junk.
Sure.
They don't want to know, one, and then also it's just not a wise thing. Um, but just to keep everything in the light, and hopefully in that way be able to walk in truth. Jesus said right after the John 3:16 thing, right in that same path,
Mm-hmm.
he says that some people, man, they don't want to come to the light. They don't want to come to Jesus because their
Right.
deeds are evil.
Right.
Other people who walk in truth, they're stoked on the light, and they're just like, yeah, check it out with the light,
Right.
and you can see that my deeds are done um, uprightly. And for me, if I allow sin to just really get its grip and to build and to grow, that's where I think the enemy would like to make a foothold in our life. And it's
Mm-hmm.
the snowball that just keeps growing. Where if you can confess that sin to the Lord, to maybe a trusted person, and hopefully deal with it,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that can avoid a lot of the um, more just intense repercussions of sin. And it's not that the Lord says you're grounded or I'm
Right,
or
right.
something like that. There's no like punishment like that, but there is repercussions for sin. And
Hmm.
what I'm thankful for is that Jesus took the literal punishment on the cross. And so now, man, anything that I go through because of my sin that's negative like that, it's unnecessary. And so if
Hmm.
I can deal with it, the sooner, really, the better. And so I know that's a little bit of a rambling
No, it's
answer,
so
but
good, dude. No, it's good.
conviction and confession, the Lord really helps keep me on track. But yeah, man.
Trying to think about how the like sunglasses and like the lie and our dark talk, like how this can I can play this. It's not gonna work. No, I think that's so good. The one thing I was thinking about, and I feel like most often I see impacted by sin is relationships.
Yeah,
And I think that makes sense because the sin is like inside you, and so it's gonna have a impact on wherever you sort of go. You like almost can't escape it.
yeah,
And so I've definitely seen, I feel like, sin in my life, and even the Lord's discipline manifest itself in relationships that become stressed and need to be repaired. Um, but I love, even again, David as the example, like, well, what does he do? I find this is where, when you're talking about too, that the desire to be in the light or the dark. I mean, David desires it so much that even in this moment of discipline, because of sin, he's like going to the Lord. He's like going to the light. He's going to the Lord. Hear my prayer, hear my cry, hold not your peace at my tears. um and I love that, and that's a great example for us, like, even in those moments where we're wrestling with it, where we're dealing with even the consequences of sin, we can still go to him in the light. And that's where I think what you said, Satan wants us to think, no, hide in the dark, stay there. um, and I think that I mentioned earlier, like how these are woven together, because I think in 40 and 41, as we look, we'll see some more sort of answer to what David's praying and wrestling through.
yeah, yeah. And just to piggyback on that too is David. It was so important for him to be right with God, right?
Mm.
And like you're saying, it sin damages relationships. That's true of our human relationships. That's true of our relationship with God.
Hmm.
Sin is a divisive force. It just divides. That's what it does. And
Hmm.
Satan's wanting to divide and conquer. And it's almost like David is when he's in sin, there's like this dark cloud over him just plaguing him, like, I need to get right with God. He,
Hmm.
he couldn't get away with being a sinner. He had
Right.
to, he wasn't comfortable in sin. And I think that's kind of what I'm trying to describe in my own life too.
Right.
And when First John says he who is born of God does not sin, that doesn't mean that we don't ever make mistakes. But what it means is that we don't practice a lifestyle of sin. We're not
Hmm.
comfortable in that.
Right. Right.
And something that I've heard people say over the years too is, if you're comfortable in slop, that's one way you can know you're a pig. But like the prodigal son, he was
Right.
in the pig slop, and
Yep.
he wasn't. He was like, "What am I doing here? This is not
Yeah. Yeah.
where I belong." And that's kind of part of where I would say the discipline comes in too. The Lord doesn't allow me to enjoy sinful
Yes.
style like
Yep.
people who don't know Him do. Even though, of course, there's repercussions for them also, but there's this yearning to just be where I belong with the Lord, close to Him. So yeah, that's
So
a good
good.
question, man. That's a good.
Man, and what a great, good to pull in the prodigal son story. I think that's a really helpful picture too.
Yeah, man. Cool, dude.
All right, bro. Well, love you, man. See you on during our online gathering.
Yeah, I will see you there.
All
Adios.
right.